What's up, everybody? This is Big Sarge back with another video. And in this video, we're going to be talking about 10 misconceptions that people have when it comes to joining the U.S. Army. So let's get into it. All right. So you're thinking about joining the Army, or maybe you're just curious about what it's really like. Either way, there's a lot of misinformation floating around out there, with some of it coming from TV, some from the movies, and some from that one friend who claimed that they almost joined. Well, let me go ahead and cut through all of the noise. In this video, I'm going to break down 10 of the biggest misconceptions about joining the U.S. Army. And no, this is not a recruiting pitch. It's just the real deal coming from someone who served 13 years of his life on active duty in the U.S. Army. So with that being said, let's go. All right, so let's start with the first misconception, and that is if you join the Army, you're going straight to war. Now, this one's probably the most common and the most anxiety inducing, but here's the truth. Not everyone who joins the Army gets deployed into a combat zone. In fact, the majority of soldiers serve their entire enlistments without ever seeing combat. The Army is made up of hundreds of different jobs, many of which are support roles from logistics, intelligence, cyber operations, healthcare, communications, maintenance, and much more. Now, sure, if you pick a combat MOS like 11 Bravo or 19 Kilo, which is the armor crewman, then there's a high chance that you will be on the front lines. But if you go into something like 25 Bravo, the IT specialist, or 68 Whiskey, which is called a combat medic, or 92 Alpha, which is logistics, then your mission might be entirely behind the scenes. And also, deployments do not equal combat. You could be deployed to Germany, South Korea, Kuwait, or even Hawaii. So no, joining the Army does not mean you're automatically packing your bags to go to war. All right, so the second misconception is the Army is only for people who cannot get into college. Now, this one's outdated and somewhat disrespectful. Now, some people believe that joining the Army is a last resort, as if it's only for people who don't have other options. And this couldn't be further from the truth. There are plenty of people who join the Army. You got people who join after getting their degree because they want help paying off student loans. You have people that join because they want to gain leadership experience. You have people that join to earn certifications or hands-on training in tech, engineering, or healthcare. And you have people that join because they want a challenge that a classroom cannot provide. Plus, let's be real. College debt is no joke. The Army offers free college tuition through the GI Bill and tuition assistance, which lets many soldiers go to school while they serve or after they get out, and essentially they'll be debt free. So the next time you hear someone say you're too smart for the Army, just smile and ask them how they plan on paying back that $80,000 in student loans. Another misconception is you lose all your freedom in the Army. Now, you do give up some freedoms, but this is not prison. You do have rules that you have to follow, and you do have to wear a uniform. You do have to show up on time. You got to follow orders, and you have to abide by military regulations. But once you get through basic training and settle into your unit, you'll find that life becomes much more balanced. And many soldiers, they live in their own rooms or apartments once they get out of AIT. They have cars, phones, video games, laptops. They go out on the weekends, they travel, and they start families. Now, the structure is part of what makes the Army run smoothly, but it doesn't mean that you're being controlled 24/7. In fact, for many people, the structure is what helps them grow. Another misconception is that drill sergeants are always screaming in your face, and you could thank Hollywood for this one. Now, while basic training is intense, drill sergeants aren't mindless screaming machines. Their job is to break you down, build you up, and teach you how to survive as a soldier. Now, do they yell? Of course they do. Do they push you? You better believe it. But there is a purpose behind it. Outside of basic training, most NCOs or non-commissioned officers and leaders, they're pretty much professional, respectful, and supportive. The yelling pretty much fades away, but the lessons always stick. And believe it or not, a lot of soldiers, they look back on their basic training as one of the most memorable and sometimes fun parts of their military experience. Another misconception is the Army will change who you are. Now, that is absolutely false. The Army is not going to brainwash you. Now, this misconception usually comes from people who think that if you join the military, you'll become some robotic, emotionless, hardcore soldier who forgets their roots, and that's not true. The Army is full of diverse people from every background, and individuality is still alive and well, because you're going to meet soldiers who are artists, musicians, gamers, activists, nerds, athletes, poets, and on and on. And sure, you are going to grow, you will mature, you will get tougher mentally and physically, but you will not lose who you are. You're just going to evolve. And a lot of soldiers find that the Army helps them become the best version of themselves. Another misconception is you can't choose your job. Now, this one's tricky, but it needs to be cleared up. Yes, you can choose your job or your MOS, but only if it's available and you qualify for it. So when you go to the MEP station, you're going to work with a career counselor who's going to show you what MOSs are based on your ASVAB scores and the current needs of the Army. Now, if you're not happy with that list, you can wait. You can retake the ASVAB for a better score, or you can even delay your enlistment until your desired job opens up. Now, what you should not do is settle for something like open general to just ship out fast, because that means the Army is going to assign you whatever job they need filled, and it may not be what you want. So always ask, is this job guaranteed in my contract? Because if it's not in writing, then it doesn't exist. Another misconception is everyone who joins the Army has to be in perfect shape. Now, this one stops a lot of people from even considering the military, but let's go ahead and clear this up. You do not need to be in top tier shape to enlist. You just need to meet the minimum physical standards based on your age, gender, and MOS. And if you're not there yet, there are programs like the Army's Future Soldier Program or the Delayed Entry Program that can help you train and prepare for basic training. And once you get the basic training, you're going to be working out every single day. You're going to get stronger, you're going to lose weight, and you will improve. And some people, they show up doing only 3 push-ups, and by the time they leave, they're doing over 40, and that's no joke. So don't count yourself out just because you're not a gym rat yet. The Army can help you get there. Another misconception is once you join, you can never leave. Now, let's be real. When you sign that contract, you are making a serious commitment, usually 3 to 6 years of active duty plus a few years in the inactive ready reserve. But that doesn't mean that you're stuck forever. You can choose shorter enlistments, like 2 to 4 years in some cases. You can reclass into another job later. You can switch to the Army Reserve or the National Guard. You can separate honorably when your contract is up, and you can explore early separation options under special circumstances like medical, hardship, etc. Now, just remember, this is not a regular job where you can just quit with 2 weeks worth of notice, but it's also not a life sentence. The key to all of this is understanding your contract before you sign anything. Another misconception is you're going to lose touch with your friends and family. Now, there's definitely some time that's going to be spent apart, especially during basic training and deployments. But in today's world, staying connected is easier than ever. And once you get your phone back, and that happens usually after being in basic training for a few weeks, you can call and text regularly. You can do video chats. You can use social media. You can go on visits during block leave or on the weekends, and you can have your family come visit you at your duty station. Plus, you're going to make new friends in the Army who often feel like family. And these are the people that you're going to train with, eat with, and lean on when times get tough. So yes, you might be away from home, but you're never truly alone. And our final misconception is the Army is just about fighting wars. Now, sure, war fighting is a core mission, but the Army does so much more than just pull triggers and blow stuff up. So here's a few things that soldiers do. They provide disaster relief during hurricanes, wildfires, and earthquakes. They deliver humanitarian aid around the world. They build infrastructure in developing countries. They conduct cyber defense operations. They train foreign military forces. They assist with border security, and they respond to pandemics and public health crises. Now, the Army is like its own society. It has its own mechanics, medics, linguists, engineers, IT professionals, public affairs experts, and much more. So if you're worried that joining the Army means becoming nothing more than a war fighter, just know that the Army is way bigger than that. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this up. Joining the Army is not for everybody. And it's okay if you decide that it's not your path. But if you're on the fence or you're unsure because of something someone told you about the Army, then do yourself a favor. Look deeper. Talk to real soldiers. Visit a recruiter and be ready to ask the recruiter the hard questions. Read firsthand stories. Watch YouTube videos made by vets, not just the hype reels. Because the Army, it can offer you structure, education, a brotherhood or a sisterhood, financial stability, travel and adventure, and a sense of purpose. Now, it can also be tough, rigid, and overwhelming at times. But one thing that it is not this one-dimensional Hollywood version you probably heard about your whole life. So whatever you decide, make an informed decision and not a decision based on myths.